kerekasztal-beszélgetéssel folytatjuk ismét. Az üvegplafonon túl hol vannak a nők bizonyos szakmákból? Ez a címe a következő beszélgetésnek. Nagy György fogja moderálni, a Sigma Technology Magyarország ügyvezetője, a résztvevőket pedig kérném, hogy foglalják el a helyüket. Ben Koopman, a BlackRock Magyarország HR vezetője, Héger Nóra Zsuzsanna, az E.ON hálózat programvezetője, Szigeti Barbara, a Tesco Magyarország országos HR vezetője, és Zani Néva, a Deutsche Telekom globális sokszínűségi és esélyegyenlőségi termékmenedzsere. Tétek a szó, és kell még plusz egy mikrofon? Mindenkinek van?
Köszönöm.
Hello everyone, and I'd like to jump right into things by being a little provocative and ask, what is the real problem with gender imbalances at the workplace? Some sectors and industries have a male-dominant culture or history. Some don't. What is the real problem here? And I turn to Eva, who is a globally responsible at Deutsche Telekom for diversity and inclusion. You work at a data-driven company, Eva, so you probably have some figures to prove us right or prove us wrong. So what is the real problem here?
Thank you. The real problem is that, as you said, primarily we had a culture based on dominance. Right now we are living in a culture of disruption. Business is changing fast. We have to react fast. If you exclude different markets from your customer share, or if you exclude different backgrounds from your professional share, you will lose money. So there's, very simply put, inclusion, diversity, equity just pays off.
Thank you very much. Others, you probably have access to the same data that Eva was referring to. What do your figures tell you about gender balance paying off?
I'll go if that's okay.
Sure.
So I think there's quite a few data points. I'm not going to talk about particular data points except to say, you know, there's even mathematical algorithms which show diversity has commercial, incentivization. And actually very often in organizations, and mine's a good example of that, we're the world's largest asset manager. I have to say that, I think contractually, by the way. We use facts like algorithms and data to help convey, why diversity is important. And that's really convinced everybody in the importance of doing this. So I think you've got to use data, but you've also got to use your audience as well.
I push this a little bit further because even if you have data showing that diversity pays off, you may still end up like we at Sigma with a very low inflow of applications coming from females. So how can you turn this around? Barbie, you wanted to say something.
I just see the sentence behind you, so insight can lead to new opportunities. I'm not paid by KPMG, but I really like this sentence. So Tesco is different because we are a retail business and we are a business for women. And I can tell you we are a business for talented women. 70% of our population are women, and the rate on my managerial level is 66. We have started to measure the data and follow the role model like Telecom, I think. So I really like to read our diversity and inclusion reports. I really like to see who we are, like a Tesco people, and learn from the data. I see how we are where we are on the gender pay gap, for example, and what we can do more on functional level.
Gender pay gap is something I wanted to get back to later, but before that I want to ask Zsuzsa, you work at an energy utility company, and just as finance or IT, you probably suffer from a low inflow of female applicants. How can you tackle that situation?
Just one more sentence back to the real question, that what's the problem with it? And I think the problem is that we need to talk about it. So I think that's the real problem, and it's not about the numbers, because I have seen many communities where there were like 8 women and 1 man, and no one had talked about it. And I think that's also very important, that numbers are only the first step, that we see that we are suffering from something. And what I can personally say, that I'm working currently for the distribution system operation, which sounds pretty not interesting for women, and I actually love my job. And I think the problem is that those professions which are not really familiar to women at a certain age, or even at older age, I mean, then that's a problem, that we don't have the real picture about who we are and what are our opportunities. And I think that showing that what is the reality and having the real understanding about ourselves and the professions that we would like to choose, that's something that we need to tackle. And from our perspective, I think our responsibility is to show that it's not something that is not for women. It's something that is for people who are into it. And I think it's regardless of the gender. So I think that's our responsibility. And obviously we have like 80-20 in certain jobs, but I would ask all of the men who are not really present here, but who is telling his daughter that it's fine to be an electrician. So you should consider it to become an electrician, because in the network we have like 60-70% of our jobs with electricians. So I think that's also an important question, that how we see ourselves and our potential opportunities.
I read somewhere in a recent study that about 30% of women aspire to be in management. Is it something that is given, or is it something that we should change?
Obviously, I think we should change it, because I think that there are a lot of talented women who would be amazing leaders. And what we have experienced in our study, that the number is quite similar. We have asked like 300 women in the network operation that what do they think about their careers, what are their aspirations, and actually they do not have the confidence to move for it. And I think that's the problem. The problem is not that they are not there yet, but they don't believe that they would be good. And actually there are studies which show that if there are 10 criteria regarding a job description, and you see that you are good in 8, as a woman you don't apply, because you are lacking the 2. And as men, if you have like 4 or 5, and I don't know the statistics, then you feel like I should go for it. So I can make it, and I could develop in it. And I think that as women, we are also able to develop those 2 pretty much.
You mentioned bias, and that was another study that I came across. It was from 2012. It was done at Yale, and scientists sent out applications in this study to a lab manager position. And they found that depending on what name they put on top of the CV, be it John or Jennifer, the Johns got better marks, and the majority of respondents found the male applicant to be a lot more hireable and also eligible for a lot higher wage. Again, let me stress that this was conducted at Yale 10 years ago, so a high-profile workplace, so probably there's some bias thing going on here. Eva, I'm sure you know the study, you heard about it. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts haven't changed since somewhere at the last year when I got the chance to participate at Open Conference, and the title of my presentation was "There's no way around unconscious bias. There's only way through." So the only way to beat unconscious bias is to realize that it's here to stay for good. So what we have, because that's the way our brains are wired, and in several times we have to admit, it does save lives. But in several times we don't pay attention, and it's working for us, and it's replacing our conscious thoughts. And this is very simple. So once you do this, once you know that it's here, you can as well pay attention to when your mind is not deciding based on conscious facts when you are not second-guessing your immediate reaction to things. We have to learn how to discipline the way it operates. And actually, in larger societies, in larger environments, in larger corporations, we have started this work. Data is here to help us have a transparent second thought. Diverse teams help us. If we are surrounded with people from other representational backgrounds, we can always ask them, what's your opinion? What do you think about it? We can challenge status quo. And if we want to survive, we need to, because disruption always challenges status quo.
So there is bias. That's good to know, because one thing to put problems on the table, another thing to solve these problems, but probably everything starts with admitting that you will never get rid of bias. But you at BlackRock, when you have here that you have incentives to managers if they reach certain quotas. Is my information correct? Can you?
Yeah. Yes, there is to some extent, right? So BlackRock has a global commitment to achieve a certain target of senior leadership, female senior leadership. So that's what we class as directors and MDs, very senior people. And we have a 32.5% expectation by 2024 that we will achieve that. And we're well on the way.
Where are you now?
Well on the way. Well on the way. I'm not allowed to say, I've been told.
Okay.
But anyway, well on the way, right? And that's global, but even here in Hungary, we've actually had a 5-fold increase in the representation of senior female leadership in Hungary in the last 2 years, which we've achieved through leaders here and here to help us achieve that. And that's through what I'm going to call like purposeful proactivity. That's about leveraging systems and processes that we all operate every day to maximum advantage to create more diversity. That's sourcing, targeted sourcing and attraction. That's about unconscious bias learning. So we've all got to manage our biases. The more we learn about them, the more we're aware of them, the better that we can be as leaders in managing and challenging ourselves and others around us. And we have that training in place. We do it very regularly. And that's also underpinned by processes. So we have principles around inclusion. We have objectives around inclusion. And therefore, then that goes to exec reward as well. So yeah, I think it's a full piece.
Impressive journey that you've covered there. Barbara, I turn to you now. You work at Tesco, and you, as other similar industries, you're a customer-facing sector, right? Which tends to attract more women. You probably have a higher percentage of women than IT or energy or finance. How do you? What kind of issues you have with that, if you have any, and are you conscious of the minority male workers that you have there? You don't get me wrong. So you probably have may have the opposite problem, or do you?
Okay. So as I mentioned, on my level, the percentage is so high, so we tick the quote. But on director level, we are on 44, what looks great. But if I see the organization chart, I see lack of the open director spaces. And because of the flat organization structure. So we have many of managers on my level, many talented women, but how can I become a director? What's the organization program? What's the mentoring for me if I am talented? So I see this point like main challenge. The other one is the age groups. Half of the Tesco ladies, we are 8,000 at Tesco, are over 45. And we are loyal, so loyal. So I'm getting older and older at Tesco. So what's the opportunity for me at Tesco, like director? So this is the another challenge. the opposite side of the age tree, how can I find young talented women in the population from the market or from inside of the Tesco? So this is the third point. And yes, how can I care about mothers and fathers? And yes, we should be so careful how we communicated around this diversity and inclusion because of our minority who are men. And what we did in the previous 2 years, lots of on family policies, flexibility policies, how we give back fathers to the families. And I think the most important for ladies on top of the salary issue is the time. So how I am sure my partner is together with me, help me, and I have enough opportunity to be a manager or be Barbie, like a manager. Thank you.
Interesting point you raised regarding maternity leave and maternity leavers. And I know, Zsuzsa, you conducted some serious research regarding the fact or the problem of maternity leavers not necessarily staying with the company after they come back, right? What did the data show?
Actually, we are pretty good in that right now, and I think it's a lot of work is behind us regarding this. And we didn't have the right statistics earlier when we started the program. How can we support the women who are on maternity leave? And I think it's very important to provide this continuity when someone is leaving for maternity leave, already planning to come back. So, for example, we have an agreement that is not legally obligatory for anyone, but the manager is sitting down with the person who is going for a maternity leave. What are your plans? How shall we plan with you in the future? And as well, we developed a community where all of the women who are on maternity leave can still stay in touch with us. They are having the same access as internal colleagues to job advertisements or news within the company, which keeps them with us, even if they are not physically with us at those times. And currently we are having like almost 70% of return rate, which is, I think, pretty great in this sense. And I also think that making the other side of the balance, that how can we really make this time for the women better and more equal, is that we introduce as well that we are additionally giving 5 days compared to the legally required one to fathers to stay at home with 100% of wage coverage, which makes it 15 days if you have a single child and 18 if you have twins, which I think it's much better than the previous and legal one. So I think that's also how can we make balanced from the man perspective as well, maternity leave.
Eva, you had a similar challenge ahead of you in the past. About 6-7 years ago, you looked at the data and you were shocked by seeing that you're losing out on a lot of people. Speaking of maternity leavers again, what did you find and what did you do?
Exactly. So we had to look at the data because we report on them on an annual basis in our sustainability report, which is done by the Global Reporting Initiative each year. And we have found in 2016 that there is an indicator in which you have to say, you can say, and we wanted to. So you can say how was the percentage of female workforce who, after returning from maternity leave, do stay with the company for more than 12 months. So that's like a percentage that you have to show. And in 2016, that was an embarrassing 46%, which means that 54% of our employees did not stick around for one of many reasons. And we wanted to address that issue. So we ran a couple of surveys. We asked them, we asked the managers, we have monitored the recruitment processes, we monitored the process of engagement. We found none. So that was the easy part. And so based on what our customers told us, which was they want to keep in touch, they don't want to let go of the company, they want to have access to learning and development portfolios, They want to be supported if they are proactive, and they want to be let alone if they would like to pursue other careers. So they don't want to be pressurized by the company, they just want to have their chance. And so we have developed a process which supports them from the second trimester, from the which date, I'm telling to people in this room who never gave birth that in the second trimester, you usually know the exact date of when approximately you will give birth, and then the rest is done by your child. But then from the second trimester all the way to the first day when you're coming back, we have this assisted process in which there's management consultancy, there's learning and development, there's keeping in touch, there's keeping some things to yourself, giving some things back to the company, but staying in touch. And we have measured the same thing in 2020, when it was the last time that I did this research, and it was 86%. So the 82. Yeah, so the 46 turned to 82, which is a pretty good result.
Impressive. Thank you. Ben, some of your founders were women, right? 30 years ago, something like that. So you have that mindset in your DNA. And I found a nice quote, or it may have just been a message from your CEO called Larry Fink, right? And he said that in a global call to staff that I was not there, so correct me if I'm misquoting him, that in case you're not respectful, in case you don't think that inclusivity is important, BlackRock is probably not the right organization for you. Was it really said like that? And what do you think Larry's management commitment, how do you think it helps?
That's a great point. Yes, he did more or less say those words, and it was a bit of a mic drop moment. So it was a global call, and it was just in response to how Larry feels about things. He's a founder of our firm, and like you say, a number of founders were female, Sue Wagner and Barbara, and that's therefore kind of inclusions in our DNA as a firm. And that DNA, I think, runs throughout the organization in much the same way that DNA does, of course. That moment was a mic drop moment. Like I say, there was a long silence, and then we pivoted to another discussion topic, I think, on earnings. But that has resonated with people. And frankly, I know at least one leader left because they felt that was incompatible with how they thought about things, and therefore then it isn't the right organization. So I think, yes, you've got to have role models, whether that's leaders like Larry Fink, or it's our founders, or it's the innumerable female leaders that we have, and networks. And then the networks then working at the intersectional basis. So, for example, we have the Black Professionals Network here in Hungary, and they're celebrating International Women's Day today. So, it's just a nice way of kind of having that cross-focus. And then to the point I made before, I think that's really important, is about the DNA piece. You need to make sure that objectives, principles actually just call out the behaviours that are required of both leaders and rank and file colleagues like myself to make sure that we are acting in an inclusive manner, because that's really, really important. That drives the right outcomes, I think.
It's one thing to recruit right, with the right mindset, with the right focus. Another thing is to create an environment that is friendly to women and makes them stay at the workplace. Many women working in senior management positions complain that after they get recruited, they find that the environment that they end up in is not the one that they envisioned for themselves. So how can you bridge the gap? How can you work for your gender equality KPIs to be right, to be on spot, to be where you want them to be, and making this mindset shift within the whole company, within the whole sector. Zsuzsa, you may have some experiences regarding that.
Yeah, we decided this year that we would like to focus in a non-gender related way on career consciousness. And I think it's very important that we both would like to target men and women from the same aspect, like biases and consciousness about biases and consciousness about talent management and also leadership. And I think it's very important that we don't forget about men in this case, that we also would like to form the approach and beliefs and biases amongst men, but we also need to form the women's biases. That what do we think about? Is that man said that one because I'm a woman? Or is this just his professional opinion? And when we are having this also biases within our minds, that is also something that we need to approach. And we are really now having three focuses for this year. The one is that how we can provide role models and different role models also from the horizontal moves, not only the vertical ones, because you can have a career on a horizontal level as well. And a lot of women are interested in that one. So why should we push someone who is not open for a leadership role? And I think that these horizontal moves can also be a confidence boost for women, that I was also successful in that other role. I could be also successful in the leadership role. So these are also in the focus. And we also would like to have a community who is showing real examples from the company. Here is a woman from IT, here is a woman from network, and their careers are totally different. And you can choose a different path as a woman as well. You can be a strict leader, you can be, I don't know, a soft one, you can be an expert in different fields, and you can move around and still having a family or not having a family, but it's your choice how you form your career, and we are supporting in that you as well, regardless of your gender.
Okay, so you landed that job that as a woman that you aspired for. You find that the place that you start working at is inclusive, it's family friendly, and then you probably don't find it out, but you feel that there's a difference between how much you're paid and how much your male colleagues are paid. So there's a tangible pay gap. We know from data that in Hungary it is about 30%. Depending on the way you look at it, it can be good or bad. Good because it's better than the EU average. Bad because women earn 1/8 less for this, on average than men. And I know at Tesco, Barbie, you put this problem on the table and really started to tackle it. How does the story go?
With baby steps only, but yes, we had started to measure it and report it 2 years ago. We find in store level the pay gap is 11% only. And being honest, the store manager was so surprised because we have equal pay. So how it's happened? They shocked. And because of the overtime, night shift bonus, Sunday bonus, who can allow to earn more in this situation? So, and of course, there are many positions, like you can see .com driver like a woman in the 4th floor, never. Oh, one time, short time. And so it was the store and the distribution center situation, and in the head office, just male-driven director population was the main reason, and technology. Technology. The buzzword is the technology.
Thank you. Any good examples from BlackRock or Deutsche Telekom where you made huge progress regarding the pay gap?
Actually, at Magyar Telekom we did. So I just joined Deutsche Telekom in November, but previously I drove diversity, equity, inclusion in Magyar Telekom, and we had this fascinating result by we created a gender pay gap dashboard because we love our data. We are quite obsessed with data, actually, and data visualization, because it's, you get to draw based on numbers, and that's cool. So we wanted to see how our gender pay gap is being built. So what are the constructing background effects of our gender pay gap? Because gender pay gap is a lived reality everywhere where men and women and all other genders work together. That's no doubt. What we wanted to say is how it's being generated and what can we do to reduce it. Whether it's something that society constructs and we don't have to do anything because, I'm sorry, but that's society, not us. But whether there are some detectable changes in what we can introduce in our processes, such as talent management, recruitment, hiring, promotion, etc., or even pay rise giving that can be changed. And what we have found is we have found something exciting. You know, when you look at your gender pay gap data, once you will have a look at it, you will see a thing called age scissor. The age scissor is going to show you that in certain age groups, men's wages and female wages differ. That certain age group is between 30 and 40, mostly because women are engaged in care work, while men are engaged with proceeding with their career. So there you have the age scissor. And we wanted to see, so we thought that, yes, because we are that mean of a company that we do not pay enough for women who are caregivers. And so we zoomed in the caregivers, the caregiving part of the employees. And actually we saw that, no, we are not a mean company. We are paying high or even higher to caregiving females. So that's not the problem. So what's the issue? So we had to realize that the right issue is losing up on time. It's simple as that. So when I'm back at home caregiving, I'm not even interested in my career moves. I'm happy to get there on time to the nursery. Full stop.
Simple as that. I like that. Spain has recently introduced some new legislation, and this is about gender parity. And it will require businesses, other organizations to have a more equal representation of men and women. We don't have any similar act in Hungary. Do you think we need them? Do you believe in quotas? Do you believe in telling organizations, companies, or setting some requirements to them in order to have a better balance gender-wise? What are your thoughts, Ben? You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was nodding. Yes, I think targets, goals, possibly a better word, is important. And like I say, we have them within BlackRock, and I think we were talking about this before. Just the mere fact of having a stated goal allows you as an organization to move towards it. So not having that clear sense of direction, I think, means that you can't necessarily pull together to achieve something. And I think that's really, really important. So yeah, I think there needs to be some clarity of goal.
Would you keep the goals forever? Or would you wait for the goals to sort of show result and then let them go? Zsuzsa, what are your thoughts?
Actually, I wasn't thinking about that, but rather what are the goals? What is the precise measure that we would like to achieve? Because I'll just tell you a quick example that if we would have a gender equal ratio at the customer service, I think we would die. We have 80% of women over there, and reaching the 50% regarding men, I think that wouldn't be something that would inspire anyone to reach, even if that would take a focus on it. But on the other side of the network distribution part of the company, we have the reverse ratio, where also if we do not have engineers coming out from the university, then how we would provide the supply and inflow to the company and how it would impact our business results. So I think that we need to be really wise. What are the goals? And I think that it's more important to have actions than to have figures, because I think if we take the right action, then the figures will follow. But I think that the goals are really important to see that where we are, and then facing that reality that where we are and how we can really tackle that issue and how can we really have a real responsibility with tackling the issues. And keeping them forever, I think we have them forever. We have them since we were born, that we are having the same ratio, and I think that I won't be happy in a world where people would say that there should be 50 cooks and women and men as well in all of the restaurants. I think that's not something when we can really be ourselves.
I think quotas are definitely very important, but I consider them being somehow like we use the clutches when we need to learn to walk again. So after you, I don't know, suffer an injury, you need a clutch, and you need to start learning walking again. But you don't need that forever, just until you recover. And we need the quotas to recover from status quo and hierarchy and move towards equity at large. And for this reason, it's a really good use, a really good tool. But it's really important not to misuse it and not to turn it to some tool that would discourage talented male professionals to proceed career moves, which is happening right now across many fields. You get discouraged male populations saying that, sorry, I'm not proceeding because they want a woman. We don't want that. So if quotas result in this action, then we must rethink how we use it.
As a last question, and I'm going to address all of you, what would you say to a talented, aspiring young woman living in today's Hungary regarding the career that she's facing? So what could be the 2-3 things that you'd advise to her, someone who is starting her adult life? Let's start with you, Barbie.
Find a great mentor and ask for help.
Find a great mentor and ask for help. Thank you. Eva?
I would say find something that you love doing 24 hours a day, and you cannot wait to wake up the next day to do the same, and go and do that. And don't worry if this changes a couple of times along the way.
I would say also for men talents that be yourself, and the second thing, that choose an environment that inspires you and appreciates you, and don't be afraid to move on if the environment is not changing for you, but you are changing for the environment.
It's pretty poignant of me. I've got 2 daughters, so I'm just thinking about what I'd speak to them when they're not shouting at me. So I think dream big, because I don't think there's been a better time to do that. And I think, use role models, use great professionals to help guide you. And, we've got, I guess, 250 plus great professionals here. So I think, a message to you guys would be make yourselves open to connect with junior female entrants into the job market as well.
Thanks all of you, and thanks Egyenlítő Alapítvány for hosting us. It's been a great pleasure talking to Barbara, Eva, Zsuzsa, and Ben. I think we have already a toolbox to break through the glass ceiling. Now we are better equipped. I hope that all the good practices that you've shared, all the great results that you've presented, will prevail not just in your organizations but also in those organizations that are a little bit lagging behind on the way to gender equality. Thank you, and I give the word back to the studio.